It's time to be woke. Take off your shades. It helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the song, we out here, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy, and quite honestly, I had to look that up just a few minutes ago because I'm exhausted. I was up very late last night doing a project, and I didn't get a lot of sleep, so don't expect any wittiness, just snarkiness today. This is a true fucking Friday. So anyways, we have a special guest joining us today, and we'll get right to it. But first, I'd like to introduce my lovely and talented co-host, Miss Kerri Barber. Good morning, Kerri.
Hey, good morning, Andy. Thank you so much for opening the show. We love you, Andy. It's Friday. You're going to get through this, as well as the rest of us. So if
not working,
you are new joining us. No. All right. Well, just hold on. Fake it till you make it. We've only got an hour. So thank you to everyone who's joining us on Fred Hampton Leftist for House of Public Discord and all of our channels, YouTube, Facebook. Who else do we have? We have iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, all of it. Welcome. Today is Friday. You made it. So let's get started. First thing that casual observation, and I'm gonna put this actually in a poll on our Fred Hampton Leftist YouTube. But here's my question. Is there anybody who still does not believe the science in climate change? Not just the science, but do you not feel like you are being affected or will be affected? And the reason I asked this question is I was reading an article from Oregon, and I have deepest sympathy for those people in Oregon their wells are going dry, their houses, no water, it's happening. But here's my thing. As I was reading the quotes from these people, they seemed shocked by this. Yet I'm sitting in the Southwest where this has been happening for a decade. Wells are going dry, all of this sort of thing. No one here on any side of the political aisle denies climate change or the effects of it, and they're working actively to help it. But did the people in Oregon not know that this was happening, or did they not realize that it was coming for them? So I'm going to put this question out, particularly to those of you on the East Coast. New York, New Jersey, joining us from Chicago, all places in between. Do you not see that this is happening right now and you too will be affected? Because, it struck me as odd coming from the people of Oregon where their wells are running dry. What did we think was going to happen, right? And I'm not trying to be callous. I really do feel for him, but I want to ask you out in the general audience, do you not feel like this is happening? So that's my first observation. Andy, I know you know what's happening. You're getting 100-degree temperatures.
Well, when you ask that question and I think about it, I go through this process in my head that I was thinking about a little while ago, and it really, I think about those blockbuster Hollywood movies where there's a huge imminent disaster and there's people are freaking out and there's anarchy and crime and the rule of law is abandoned and people are just trying to survive, right? The houses, the streets are abandoned and everything else. Movies like maybe, Deep Impact or Independence Day, or one of those great big where people know that their lives are potentially going to come to an end with the destruction of the earth and they're just losing their minds. And I think about all of what's currently happening in the environment and how we're seeing the polar ice cap completely, disintegrating, and these record temperatures and these temperatures that are going up to, as high as 150 degrees in Dubai and Bangladesh. These places that are now going to have to be abandoned by human beings because you just simply can't live there. The human body can't deal with those temperatures. So the one thing that I would say that hasn't gotten human beings to that point is the propaganda that we still hear from the mainstream media, or don't hear, that everything's fine, that nothing to worry about, it's all good. Meanwhile, like you said, places like Oregon and Washington are losing their ability to have water, and wildfires everywhere, and flooding and hurricanes. And like, you've said that in New Mexico, where you live, the desert has done a really bad job of being a desert, right? It's the wettest desert you have ever seen. And that's the high temperatures that we see typically around the August 1st area. Our grass has gone dormant and gone yellow because that's the driest and warmest month of the year for us. I'm still cutting my grass like it's mid-May. We have rain almost on a daily basis now, and it's completely changed. And the reason for that is climate change. If you are still in the camp that this isn't a problem, that this is just a natural cycle of the earth and we're not doing it, we should maybe put you in Oregon, just for an idea, just to understand.
May I say something?
Right. Oh, and yeah, let's, as we're having this conversation, we need to bring on our guests, because this is somebody who's running for an office who might actually be able to do something about it. So let's bring her on. This is Alex Khalil, and she's running for U.S. Senate out of Pennsylvania. So Alex, good morning. Thank you so much. Jump in on this conversation.
Well, here's people are odd, right? People will not go to the doctors even though they're not feeling well, and people will ignore what they see in front of themselves. This is part of human behavior. But I think that we need to, where we are today, to take people where they are, emotionally, mentally, and try to talk about things that which they can believe needs to be protected. So the wells, the water, right? To me, that is a real area in which I think we could sit back and make major advances in our battle against climate change by pointing out the loss of water, the pollution of water. In Pennsylvania, we have some of the worst, most polluted waterways in the country. When you don't have water, you don't have life. So in Oregon now, you don't have water. And so I think that if we focus on those things in which people, regardless of their backgrounds, can say, hey, we have a water shortage. What can we do? I think that bringing it down a notch to those who refuse to acknowledge it, but who cannot deny polluted water or lack of water, and getting them to get on board with changing our infrastructure, our use, transitioning to alternative energies, being on board with environmental stewardship. I think you can get that from them. People don't believe climate change because they think it's too big for some of them. Mentally, it's too big for some people. For those of us who believe in it, we see it, we understand it, we understand the science. Also, I think that we need to reach out to those people of faith, and if these floods, these droughts, whatnot, people of faith believe this is in the hands of God. I should tell you, my father's that way. This is all by God. But if you sit back and say, hey, Dad, should we be polluting our water Should we be wasting our resources? Should we be polluting our soil? That gets a different response. So I speak to, are we not, have we not by our Creator been made stewards of our land? So I try to sit back and say, yes.
Thank you. I was just thinking that as you were talking about people of faith, stewardship matters. And I want to back up a little bit because I'm seeing a comment. Gary, good morning. Thanks for joining us. And the reason climate change and water, I saw this in Chicago and Illinois, I lost trees and everything else because the rain no longer comes in as those gentle spring rains. It comes in a deluge. And if you were a homeowner, you knew you had to replace your gutters. They were too narrow. You had to go with the wider gutters because that water was coming in so fast. Well, what it does for aquifers, most of the country gets their water from aquifers. Yes. Those aquifers can't recharge because that water is moving so fast, which is why we're seeing more flooding. So here in New Mexico, we're getting a ton of rain. We're also getting the arroyos flooded and all of that water moving so fast that it is not usable. It's not recaptured. The aquifers are not recharging. That's what's happening in Oregon. It's not just misuse, which you're right in that, but it's that the rain has come so fast, it is not getting into the groundwater. And the people who have their wells at groundwater, and I can tell you, when you dig a well, you have no assurance that you're going to hit water. And if you already have a well and it's gone dry, you have no assurance that if you dig further, you're going to find water. So as a homeowner, you can spend $30,000 for a continued dry well. And that's what's going on in Oregon. And there are only so many companies that will drill these wells, and you got to wait for them. So this is why people have no water in Oregon. And unfortunately, I know this because it's happening in New Mexico, Arizona, parts of Texas, California. We've been dealing with it, and now Oregon is getting with it. So I just wanted to pause and let Gary know exactly what is going on, which is why you in Pennsylvania and Illinois and Ohio and New Jersey, you're also at risk. Guess where your water comes from? An aquifer. Right. So Alex, you are running for Senate, and it's an amazing thing that anybody in this day and age with the chaos is still willing to run. So what made you think that, number one, I want to do this, I want to get into the fray, and number two, that you could? So explain to everybody who you are, your background, and go ahead.
My name is Alexandria Khalil is my full name. I have been an activist. I'm a mom. I sit on Jenkintown Borough Council. And it's because those things, and I'm an American. And I'm going to tout the flag here a little bit. As an American, if you're a United States citizen and you're a certain age, you're allowed to run for office. And you should run for office. This is our democracy. It doesn't belong to a certain group of people. This is our democracy. So I have been begging people, all walks of life, all financial, socioeconomic, lives, to go and to get involved and to get elected. I feel as an American, yes, why not me go to the United States Senate? As a local official, I'm elected to Jenkintown Borough Council. I can tell you that we at the local level, we carry the entire burden. What you were talking about, water, they're not going to go to their state representative when their water wells, when their wells dry up. They go to their local county, their mayor, to their city council, their whatever governing body there is, and they go, my well dried. What are you going to do for me? My streets are flooded. My God, why aren't you doing something about it? Trees have fallen. We just had a really bad storm, very bad storm. Yesterday, a tornado went through Bensalem, which is a town right next door. We've had tornadoes left and right here in Montgomery, in this part of Pennsylvania. Stormwater management, your basement floods. Oh my God, why is my basement flooding? What are you local officials, you're not doing your job. So they come to us. They come to us, and the demands are on us. The demands are on us, our school boards, and at the local level. Why are our property taxes so high? Why aren't our schools doing well? Seniors tell us we can't afford our homes, we can't afford our medicines. And they talk to us first. They talk to us first. As an activist, I've gone door to door. As a candidate now, what my whole philosophy is going door to door. Last week, I met a woman who told me, this is no lie, that she had to stop working. Her husband was ill, was disabled, very disabled. And so she stayed home to watch him because of COVID. She couldn't have people coming in the house. And so she went to ask for food stamps, and they told her, oh, we can only give you $25 worth of food stamps. You know, so here I am, and I've heard this story over and over and over again from seniors who can't afford their medicines, from seniors who can't afford their property taxes. My first encounter with the struggles of Americans was in 2007 when I was supported President Obama's campaign. I walked to the store with a state representative, and this elderly woman came to the door, and she said to the state representative, "Can you help me? We're running out of money. My husband suffered a stroke, and we're running out of money. We can't pay the property taxes." So they're talking to us, the local activists and the local politicians, because they feel that here, at least in Pennsylvania, nobody's listening to them at the state level. Nobody's listening to them at the federal level. And more than anything, the policies of the Republican Party at the federal and state level are killing us, are hurting our people. And whether it's what we just talked about, climate change, refusal to address it at a federal level, refusal to address it at a state level, refusal to provide infrastructure money to address those issues. Schools in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is 46th in funding of education. You take a look at the lack of funding of poor schools and special education at the federal level, and also lack of money of infrastructure, right? We talk about infrastructure, pipes, buildings, the federal government not supplying that to our schools. Who has to pay this? It's us at the local level. So that's why I'm running. As a local person, as a local as a local elected official, local activist, as a mom. My son was a dyslexic. And I can tell you, he is dyslexic. He's 35 years old. That, the struggles of special ed and of getting that funding and of the struggles of inclusion, these are real issues. These are real issues. And when COVID hit, it was children who were receiving special education who received no education for about 6 months. Other than they told, the school said, well, go ahead on the internet. But if your child has autism, if your child has a reading disability and needs the extra services, you weren't getting them. So I don't blame the initial 6 months of, okay, we have an emergency. But again, the demands are at the local level. So our schools are forced to find solutions. And that is why we're elected, is to find solutions.
So it sounds like you're caught in, you as a regular citizen are caught between this last 20, 30 years of bootstrapping and let the states handle it, whereas the Fed has been lackluster or non-existent in investment in the states, right? So this is one of those things that Andy and I talk about quite frequently. Are you familiar with MMT and the federal appropriations process? Modern monetary theory.
Not off the top of my head. I can say, I wish I could tell you that I did, but I can tell you though that when you talk about at the federal level, not supplying enough funds, we also in Pennsylvania have it at the state level. Our state has been choking education and infrastructure. That's why we're on the bottom of spending. So we have it from both ends. So it's all us on the bottom at the local level that are here in Pennsylvania that have been straddled with the entire weight of the malfeasance by the Republican politicians at the federal and state level.
Okay. All right. So
Kerri, just 1 second. I just wanted to weigh in quickly. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just learned this just recently. apparently the state of Pennsylvania, to make up for lack of funding from federal government and what they don't get in taxes, because we know that the states are currency users or not currency issuers, is that they've turned to fracking for an income in order to supplement the money that they need to run infrastructure and education and things like that, right?
Yeah, but we don't even, here's the whole point. Even with the fracking, they wouldn't do it. The Republicans refused to allow severance tax. Pennsylvania is a very interesting state. We are a energy rich state. Coal, oil, fracking. We have minerals for solar, etc. But when you take a look at what has the state actually reaped from it, the citizens of the state as a whole, we have been given the dregs. And the multinational companies, energy companies, have gotten the riches. So we are a state that, yes, we have fracking, but we have abandoned wells, gas wells. We had oil, we have abandoned gas wells. We had coal, we have abandoned coal mines, which now just to remediate coal mines is $15 billion worth. So you see what's happening in Pennsylvania. Yeah, we have all these energy resources, but it's never really been used for the benefit of the state of Pennsylvania and the citizens of the state of Pennsylvania. We've squandered our wealth. Not, and I should tell you, people talk about Alaska. Alaska is a very conservative state, yet they have a sovereign fund. So their oil wealth, they put some royalties into this fund, which grew. And every year now, citizens get $1,000, $2,000. If we talk about like the Norwegians, which also have a sovereign fund, right? They now are using that sovereign fund to invest in their country, even though they're still, doing the North Sea gas exploration. They still are now putting in the infrastructure to begin transitioning. We squandered it. And that to me is what is important, that when we talk about energy resources, right? Even as we begin talking about moving towards a new energy resource, which is, hydrogen, geothermal, wind, solar, these are also going to be, energy resources that I promise you, all the royalties will be squandered, because the very people who before who owned the oil, the gas, even the coal will now buy these. This is what's happening. I don't know if anyone's paid attention to Royal Dutch Shell. Royal Dutch Shell is the second or third largest company in the world. They're now calling themselves, they're an oil company. They're now an energy company. They're now calling themselves a sustainable company. And they're investing and buying solar farms, wind farms. And so they're going to get to keep all that, the next generation of energy, they're going to keep all that money to themselves. So it's a little bit of everything, Andy. It is not that we in Pennsylvania and in the United States have squandered our natural resources. We've wasted it. We've wasted the wealth. We've left the citizens with the dregs, and we've given the riches to the rich. So my goal is to see a balanced economy that includes a balance with energy. As we begin to transition, we must transition. We don't have a choice. That we see that the American people not only benefit due to a cleaner environment, cleaner air, but we also benefit monetarily.
Excellent. Okay, so let's transition a little bit. We talk about the cost to people. Is healthcare a right?
Yes, it is definitely a right. What else would it be?
What does that
it's
mean
not
to
a
you?
luxury.
Does that mean
it's not a luxury? You need a mammogram. It's a luxury.
Right. So are you in support for a program like expanded, improved Medicare, known as Medicare for All?
Yes, I am. I definitely am. That is part of my platform.
Okay.
I eventually see us, and because I think it's going to be the easiest transition because of where we are today, is the Australian model. And I think it would get the most support because, believe it or not, Donald Trump supported it. How did he support it? When he went off and sat with the Australian Prime Minister and said, the Australians have a great healthcare system. And it's a Medicare for all. They have private and public standing side by side. And every year, because every year people change their policies and people are going in and out. And I think that would get us where we need to be. I think it would be the quickest way. And I so support Senator Sanders' legislation to already start expanding it to 60. I myself would like to have seen him ask that it start at 50 for other reasons. But I support the expanding it for eye care, dental, and hearing aids. It's ridiculous. The whole point of Medicare is to help seniors, and they don't have hearing aids. They don't have eyeglasses, and people don't even pay attention to their teeth. So, denture wear and implants. So I think about this and I go, this is the way. And I also think that it is, as a Democrat, to me, a winning strategy. We're not going to beat the Republicans or win over Republicans on the big things, but it's the little things. And I really believe expansion of Medicare, especially now, starting it with eyewear, like I said, eyewear, dental, hearing aid, that to me is almost a no-brainer. That when you talk to Republicans, they go, yeah, I really could use that. So I definitely.
So would you be in favor of? Well, let me ask you. I have my own complaints with existing Medicare because we see so many billions of dollars in bankruptcy from our seniors, our most vulnerable. So would you then be in favor of expanding it further in closing the prescription donut hole?
Yes.
In getting rid of the fraud of the Advantage plans, in making sure.
I'm going to tell you what's interesting about the Advantage plans. I myself don't like the Advantage plans, but in Pennsylvania, 40% of people who use Medicare use the Advantage plan. And that's why I believe the Medicare for all, where we have the public and private, is really the way to go, because I see what's going on with Medicare as a whole across the country. Like I said, in Pennsylvania, we're about 40%. There's only about 5 states that are in the 40 percentile of having Medicare Advantage. One of them is us, like I said, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Florida, I believe Oregon, and I can't remember the 5th one. But off the top of my head, it'll come to me. But surprisingly, I think it's Wisconsin. Surprisingly, Alaska is at 99% at regular Medicare. Wyoming, that socialist state of Wyoming, is in the 90 percentile of regular Medicare. And here's even the bigger surprise: that communist state of Missouri, only 15% use Medicare Advantage. And if you saw what happened in the election, when they voted, the people of Missouri, like I said, those socialist communists of Missouri, they voted to have Medicare expansion. So to me, nice. I don't want to get into this fight today. I personally believe the fight will happen itself. The market, these are one of these things where I think once you introduce a solid Medicare plan that eliminates these high deductibles, this 80-20 that still exists in Medicare, eliminate the donut hole, I believe people will choose that 40% of Pennsylvanians who are choosing Medicare, Medicare Advantage, will go with the public plan. And those 15% from Missouri, they're going to just go regular to the Medicare plan. But people are funny. They're going to say, oh my God, you're taking away my care. No, we're not going to take it away. We're going to expand Medicare. We're going to make it robust. And then you'll have a choice. And my firm belief, just on what we see with regular Medicare, is that people will overwhelmingly choose Medicare, the public Medicare.
Nice. So we're running out of time, and obviously you and I could talk all day long. Poor Andy. I do want to switch to I want to switch to foreign policy just a little bit, because your heritage kind of sparked my interest. You are a Palestinian American, very proud Palestinian American, and Andy and I have previously on this program had conversations about what is actually going on right now in Israel with the apartheid system. We use the accurate term apartheid, and then we have done special reports and interviews on the literal genocide that's happening. So now you, as part of the American melting pot, this speaks intimately to your family, your heritage, your community, because I think we forget how many people are in this country of Palestinian heritage, not just the big PACs representing Zionists or whatever else. But I do want to let me back up before the chat goes nuts. I believe in people's right to autonomy and to live. And if you are telling me that one person needs to die so that you can live, then we're off the right track. So I am not against Israel. I am for people and people living. So
exactly.
here's our foreign policy.
I agree with that. You know,
Okay.
On my website, I've been very upfront. I support a one-state solution. I support a two-state solution. I don't support the current situation. The current situation cannot continue. Just 2 days ago, a 12-year-old boy was shot and killed. My focus is on the Palestinian people. The 12-year-old boy was killed. At his funeral, a 20-year-old boy was killed, both by the IDF. In Gaza, the systematic slaughter of families. This is a policy of wiping out families. I have always been against Hamas, I should say. When Hamas first came out, I knew that they were nothing but trouble. Hamas actually was supported as an alternative. I don't know if a lot of people know this, as an alternative by the Likud government, as an alternative to the PLO, which is now another corrupt bunch of, don't let me get started with them. I am all about the Palestinian people, their dignity, their children, their right to human rights, their right to freedom and justice. This idea of this constant everyday taking of their land, the settlement movement, which is funded. You know, this is what's funny. You can't sit back and say, oh, we support a two-state solution, and then sit back and allow funding through the tax code of the settlement movement. One organization in the United States alone, it has tax deductions of over $1 billion receive over $1 billion tax deductions, and they support the settlement movement. So I don't see how, that's contradictory. Don't tell me you support a two-state solution and yet we're allowing these so-called nonprofits to exist. But I'd like to go back a little bit about the Hamas. Hamas, in my opinion, is nothing more than Inkatha was to in South Africa. They were really supported by the South African government, and they were nothing more than a propaganda tool. And that's what happens with Hamas. The minute focus is focused on the Palestinian people, all of a sudden Hamas comes up and shows itself to be these tough guys and all this, and they play right in the hands. I am appalled by Hamas. I'm appalled by the lack of leadership from the Palestinian Authority and and the lack of care for the Palestinian people. One of my focuses will be the Palestinian people. And one thing I also want to point out is that there are some really amazing people in Israel who are Jewish, who care about the Palestinian people. I'd ask people to read Haaretz, which is a magnificent newspaper. Really one of the top newspapers in the world. I think it's better than any newspaper in the United States. When discussing about the long history, which is a 70+ year history, not a 2,000-year fight or this fight. It's about a 70-year struggle of what has happened since pre-1948 to today. some magnificent writers, Gidon Levy, Mira Haas, who have talked about and have documented and have met with Israelis and who have and discussed Israelis who are really appalled by this apartheid. I'm very I feel really great. I feel very I feel promise that there are in the in the United States as a whole, people of various religious persuasions, Jewish, Christian, Muslims, Hindus, etc., who are standing up in support of Palestinian rights. I categorically condemn, I absolutely, positively condemn anti-Semitism. I will not tolerate someone saying, well, the Jews this and the Jews, I don't want to hear that talk. This is an ideology, which is not, I should say also, the Arabs have an ideology called Baathism, which I also abhor. Baathism is also the same type of thing. It's Arab nationalism. It is anti-Turkish, it's anti-Turkmen, it's anti-Kurdish. It is under Saddam Hussein, it became anti-Christian, it became anti-Shiite. So I am against these disgusting forms of nationalism of all types, and whether it is Arab nationalism causing the human rights abuse, or whether it is Israeli Zionism causing this abuse, or Turkish nationalism, which is going out against the Turks and against Christians, I'm going to speak out against it. My whole platform is about human rights. And if in the end it makes people upset, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So, real life scenario. We saw this going on, and we had Israel violate their the suspension of hostilities. We saw them, and I'm trying to be unbiased in this. I can't, because we saw them using over and over again the excuse of Hamas to take down apartment buildings, slaughter families, things like this. And then they had the Democratic Party, who sits in the White House, Joe Biden, propose a big multi-million-dollar package of arms sales to Israel at this moment. Now you're sitting in the Senate. What is your response?
I'm going to say no.
All right. Okay. Well, I'd like to chime in here for just 1 second, if you don't mind, and say that Rep. Ilham Omar from Minnesota, who has been on the record as speaking on behalf of the Palestinian people as well, and to the point where she gets death threats consistently, just came out and voted yes for this bill to send arms to Israel. Right?
I don't know. Did Rashida Tlaib vote yes?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably not. So, I'm going to vote no. But I should tell you, I would vote no also to give arms to Saudi Arabia in the slaughter of Yemenis. I mean, that is what Saudi Arabia is doing. So it's not because I'm just picking on Israel. I don't think that, that we should be giving arms to people who are committing war crimes. It hurts the United States. It really does. It makes us look bad in the eyes of the people. For us to be arming these countries to the hilt, and then they go ahead and they use it against their people. Finally, I like to sit back and say, why are we giving so much aid and military might to Israel or even Saudi Arabia? They have a strong enough economy and a strong enough infrastructure. Let them build their own weapons. I mean, the Saudis have got money galore. Let them learn to build their own weapons. Of course, this is not. I think that being arms dealers is counter. It's counter to what we do good in the world, and we do a lot of good in the world. We are the reason why the river blindness is no longer there. We are the reason why polio has almost been eradicated. We have done great things around the world. When a crisis happens, it's the United States that is first there. Earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, we are there. We are there to try to make peace where we can. So I am not here to. I think we do better as a country and are stronger as a country when we sit back and try to get away from being arms dealers and warmongers and more towards peace and more towards bringing overall health and prosperity into the world.
Okay, Alex, this all sounds great, except you are speaking right to the Democratic Party platform, which, in my opinion, most of the leadership has abandoned or forgotten outright. So a candidate like you who supports Medicare for all, as de-escalating militarization, all of these things, you're not going to be very popular with your own party. So what kind of
challenge you there? I am not.
Okay.
I'm having no problem with my party here. Really, they have not. They've invited me to every event. I've been invited to events. I've been allowed to. I've gone door to door. I've continued speaking to my local representatives. So I'm not overly worried about the party. What I learned, unfortunately, in 2020 was there are a lot of people who say that, and I'm talking about citizens, who say that they're progressive and liberal and blah, blah. But when it comes down to really wanting change, they're afraid of it. They're afraid that, well, we might lose. We might, and it's not the party. The party is like, they know that they have their interests, but it's the actual people on the ground. And that's why we need to get on the ground, those of us who are progressive. And we need to sit back and tell people, don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid for us to move forward. And so I'm not here to sit back and battle Chuck Schumer, the president, or any of these people. I am here to talk to the Pennsylvanians, to sit back and ask them, what are the issues keeping you up at night? What are the issues? And there are so many issues in Pennsylvania that you can't deny it. We have a trash issue in Philadelphia alone. Forget about the rest of the state, but Philadelphia alone that has become an environmental justice issue. We have a homeless issue. These are all plain in sight. We have a violence issue. Not only we have gun violence that is causing a generation to really you live in fear. We have police violence. We have spending on police and prisons in Pennsylvania. We have more people in prison in Pennsylvania than most countries in the world. So I'm not here to sit back and say, oh, I'm going to, Chuck Schumer this or Nancy Pelosi this. I am here to sit back and work for the people of Pennsylvania, talk to the people of Pennsylvania, elevate their voices. One of the things that I do as I go out and canvass on my behalf is that when someone tells me they're in need, I contact their state legislator. I contact the city of Philadelphia and tell them to clean up a dump where it's at. I've already done twice speaking to state legislators, once on traffic calming for a community, and once again for this woman I told you about who was not getting sufficient food stamps. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm not here to fight the party. I'm very pleased, for example, that Governor Wolf has chosen not to endorse any Senate candidate. I feel that is very fair and a very nice way to have for the play, to level out the playing field. And it's up to me. If I can't convince people to vote for me, then that's on me. I'm not going to be one of those people. Oh, I'm just not going to. I saw it in 2020 with my own eyes what had happened, and it was really
right.
people.
So I want to clarify because the chat has just completely blown up here. Most people are obviously not fans of Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, but
I'm not either. But me fighting them is not my platform. My platform is focusing on the people of Pennsylvania. All right. So when I go out and I call I have someone who's told me I can't afford my mortgage, I can't afford, my husband is sick, and I call up their state legislator and I say, hey, or I write them an email saying, hey, these folks are in need. That is me directly talking to a member of the party, Republican or Democrat. I have bigger fish to fry here than the party, the party leaders. And for me, it is to elevate the voices, of the people of Pennsylvania, the struggling people of Pennsylvania.
Sounds familiar, because we talked to Gregory on Wednesday, who had that same, coming from South Carolina, that same focus. So it's the difference between going in there as a progressive version of Marjorie Taylor Greene just to instigate shit, or to actually get stuff done on behalf of the people, where we know reasonably that a Pelosi or a Schumer has their own objectives, their own, oh boy. But it's a matter of navigating around it. You don't have to be in your face all the time to get things done for your constituents.
Here's what
Am I paraphrasing that correct?
I am not a Chuck Schumer fan. I especially don't like what he did in Pennsylvania in our last Senate race, got involved. So this is why we have Pat Toomey. That's really why, I don't like him. But me fighting him, what does that get me? All right, but here's what's nice to hear, that Senator Schumer now sees that there's wisdom to expanding Medicare, that there's wisdom to eliminating student debt, at least up to $50,000 a year. So the more people we get in office that are progressives, the more it will moderate. It didn't change Nancy Pelosi's view of the student debt, but that can change. We need, I am a big believer in term limits. So some of that is, again, we got to get out there. If you're complaining about me, about Nancy and Chuck, get out there and run for office. Nothing changes until we change. And what changes is that people are running for office. Don't be afraid. This is our country. And I get very upset, people spending so much time worrying about what they're going to do. They're going to do what they want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And what I want to do is get out there, and I've been getting out there talking to people. And where I can, with my little bit of influence, with my mouth, my fingers, I'm going to do it. Another thing, when I'm going out there in the community, I tell them, you have to work with your neighbors. You have to work together. I'm trying to organize communities. A gentleman, I was in the Northeast, said, our neighborhood is changing. I said, well, you show leadership, and your community will change in a nice way. Good. What is going on? We see a lot of slumlords. Slumlords are just, it's just terrible. Again, the trash issue, the homelessness issue. We don't have leadership, in Pennsylvania. I'm free to say this, in Philadelphia, there is no leadership. Leadership is dead in Philadelphia. So it must be the people who become leaders. And so that is my take. I don't have time, or nor do I care to put my energy into going ahead and fighting the elite. They're going to fight me anyway, and I'm going to fight my way. And my way is through the people.
Okay. Real quick, thank you, Aspen Fallen. Thank you for that, the $2 tip. They appreciate the moderators pushback. So, and I am going to push back, because I do agree with what you're saying just a little bit, and I want people to understand this. And I'm always going to be a champion for New Mexico. The reason why New Mexico has been able to enact every progressive policy, with the exception of the federal jobs guarantee and Medicare for all, is because we got rid of the neoliberals in the Democratic Party in our state house, and we filled those seats with true progressives. And so those progressives just went against our state governor and told her, you will sign, these things will happen, or you're going to be looking for a job.
Okay, but let me tell you what
that happened here. But I got
what did they do? Your people ran. They tried to
not just that we ran.
You cannot change by being on chat.
So here's what happened.
You got to get out there, going door to door, You got to get out there. And
it's more. I'm going to push back a little bit more here because in New Mexico we have 6 political parties on the ballot at every given time.
right.
So the argument always goes to policy and having that. In Pennsylvania, you guys are famous for suing the Green Party off the ballot. Stop.
That's true. I don't
You
agree
really
with that.
want to
I
have
personally, can I tell you, Kerri, I don't agree with that policy myself. I do not agree that the way to win a race is to not put people on the ballot. I don't agree with that policy. You want to win in a campaign? I have been calling the Green Party. Some of them have hung up on me, and some of them now are my supporters. No, just the way it is. You have an obligation to go out there and talk to all the people as a candidate. So I talk to Green, I talk to independents, I talk to Republicans. I'm out there knocking their doors and asking them, what are the issues important to you? If someone comes to me and talks about things which I have no control over, even as an elected official, I'm going to be like, thank you very much for your time and move on. But let me tell you a situation that happened. I spoke to, he was a Republican in Northeast Philadelphia. We didn't agree on a whole lot. And then I talked to a Republican woman out in, what's it called? Drexel Hill, Upper Darby. And in 2 ways, I was able to get them to concede that certain things weren't right. With this gentleman in the Northeast Philadelphia, he was a former police officer. And I told him, I said, we're talking about the budgets and this and that. And I said, you know what? Overtime, police overtime is killing us. And his response was, you have a point there. So I got a concession. I talked to the woman in Upper Darby, a Republican. And I told her, I said, in World War II, the United States freed the world of fascism. We rebuilt Europe and Asia. We spent over $200+ billion on Europe alone. All right. When COVID hit, which country did not have a guarantee of health care? And she said to me, yeah, us. And I go, don't you think Americans have the right to health care? And she conceded. That's what we have to do. I do not believe by taking Green Party people off the ballot that that's a good way for me to win. My way to win is to convince people in the Green Party that I stand up for certain principles. Medicare for all, environmental stewardship, tackling climate change, raising the economic justice, reforming our police departments, and tackling crime. We cannot allow 2 types of thugs to inflict our society. Corrupt police officers and criminals. And we cannot allow that. We in Pennsylvania can walk and chew gum at the same time. We in the United States of America can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I'm telling people here who are screaming and yelling at me, get out there. Run for office. Run for office at the lowest level. Get right, you run. And if you talk to people and get out there, they might they'll vote for you. We've had in Pennsylvania 2 progressives, big progressives, they're part of DSA, who won House seats. Mm-hmm. And so I think it can happen. If you believe, if you are willing, it's hard work. I mean, I was exhausted. I left work on Monday and went camping. I'm exhausted, but I feel enriched. My soul feels enriched. I swear to you, when people tell me, I've lived in this block for 20 years and no one has ever come by, and that street has never been paved in 20 years. Right. When a person tells me thank you, the Republicans come by. This is very interesting. The Republicans are coming by, but Democrats aren't coming by. Democratic leaders.
They sure are, Alex. I got to cut you off here. We're running out of time, and I so appreciate you. Well, we let people get back with their day. I really appreciate you allowing me to push back and have a little bit of that debate. This is wonderful. And I can see already that you will be perfect in the Senate because you can hold your own, right? And you're willing to listen to those things. One request that Andy and I have is do a little bit of reading on modern monetary theory, because you're going to need it when you get to the Senate. And they start talking about how do we pay for it. You'll already have the answer. And
I got a quick answer for that one. How do we pay for it? The same way we paid to rebuild Europe, same way we paid to rebuild Japan, the same way we paid $2 trillion for the Afghan war, the Iraqi war, the same way we paid the tax cuts for the billionaires and the multimillionaires. We need a balanced economy, not this balanced budget baloney that's all on the back of the American taxpayer, the American middle class and working class. So that's how I'm going to sit back. That's what I'm out there talking about. I've already had someone talk to me about, the budget. I believe in a balanced economy.
Love it. So, Alex, how do people learn more about you and maybe get involved in your campaign wherever they are, support you and get your campaign running successfully? So,
Alex Khalil, Khalil, for FORUSSenate.com. I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Oh, yeah. And I love the pushback. It makes me better.
Oh, we got lots of that here, especially on a Friday show. So, Alex, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know that your campaign is getting underway. Your election is not until 2022. Can we have you back to give us an update on how things are going and if anything's changed? So
please.
Oh, wonderful.
And especially if I win, I will be on your show all the time. That is my promise.
We got it.
Have it recorded here.
Okay, awesome. Kerri, I'm going to push back there and say you're not allowed to replace me. That's all I'm saying.
No. You guys are, can interview me anytime. I appreciate this so very much. And to everyone who has was upset by anything I said, hey, email me. Go to my website, put in your comments, and then also feel free to donate $5 or $10 to my campaign.
Excellent.
Exactly. For the time and trouble. That's wonderful. So thank you, Alex. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, we will definitely have you back. Good luck with your campaign.
Thank you so much.
So that's pretty much it for me. Andy, I know that you're still exhausted from all your hard work. Any final thoughts for us this morning?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that was in the chat. That was because you were right, Kerri. It was blowing up, and it was so hard to keep up. We actually had one person, the person that gave us a super chat, Aspen Fallen, was trying to find a donut to use as an emoji when you were talking about Medicare for All. But it was very lively, and we appreciate all of you coming into the chat and weighing in. We're over time, and so we're going to have to go. But Kerri, I think I'd like to take some time on our next show and unpack a little bit about what we talked about today. Certainly in terms of the direction that Alex is going and the mindset that she's using. And I think that when we talk about the direction and how we want electoral politics to go, especially in the US, there's a lot of conflicting things that are happening right now. And there's a lot of people with mindsets that the Dems need to be abandoned and, electoral politics has no point. There's no point. It should, we should look to the grassroots to make changes and all that stuff. And I think that that's a really important conversation that we should set a little bit of time aside for on Monday when we get together again. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm working on a big story, working on Pipeline 3. So I'm going to bring that to everybody next week, as well as getting some interviews from some people on the ground there, because I don't know if you're fully immersed on what's going on there. There are protesters who have disappeared. There are Indigenous women who've disappeared. There are now people on the pipeline who have been convicted of sex trafficking. The sheriff's office has taken money from a private corporation to act as their private security and violating civil rights. There are a couple rulings that just came in that are pretty interesting. And then the one positive is their water rights, this company, have been rescinded. So they're going to have a really hard time doing their construction without water. So I want to bring all of that to you next week. That's one of the things I'm working on. But yeah, this subject of how we pay for it, money, and I think based on the meeting that we had at Fred Hampton Left Us, we need to go over PAYGO again and how PAYGO actually works and what it applies to. So yeah, but let's do all of that.
Absolutely. I think that that's important, and I think that on our roundtable deserves an actual dedicated show to that, because it's so important, and it completely eliminates anybody from either party that says, well, how are you going to pay for that? And it completely mutes that argument. So it's very important, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's it for us. Everybody have a good weekend. We will see you back here bright and early on Monday. And Aspen, thank you so much for that tip. We appreciate it. Everyone else, thanks for joining us and weighing in on the comments conversation. If there's a story topic that you want to hear more about, a deep dive, that sort of thing, or if there's a candidate or somebody you think that we should interview, please drop it in the chat. Let us know. I'm happy to do all that homework for you. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kerri. Once again, thank you so much for all your diligent hard work. And everybody else, thanks so much for watching and participating in this show. I hope you enjoyed it. And we will see you here bright and early on Monday morning. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
We bout that, ayy. We in the song. We out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair of the dog. We keep